Hello, my name is Stephen Jones, Superintendent of Schools here in Little Falls, Minnesota, and this is Focus on Education. Joining me for this afternoon show is Officer Dave Stumpf.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, for having me here today.
Well, Dave, we're excited to have you here today. Dave is our school resource officer. So, Dave, let's start with that. What really is a school resource officer?
Well, basically, is what you're doing is you're bringing community policing into the school setting. So you're bringing one primary officer, which is me, and you're bringing it to the school. And if you think about it, I'd say here at the high school, you probably have 1,000 people.
Oh, with the adults, yeah, about 1,000.
And then you look into the middle school, you probably have another
700,
and then the elementary schools. So you're looking at the school district of roughly probably 2,400 people.
Yep.
And you're bringing a law enforcement officer assigned to those 2,400 people. If you look like city of Randall, they have a population of 550, Royalton 550, and they all have police officers.
Right.
So what we're doing is we're bringing an officer off of the street, walking the beat in the schools, and being the police officer for that, for the school.
Yep. And this is a shared partnership, I guess, between the City of Little Falls and Little Falls Community Schools, as we share in the investment in your time.
Yep, and I really enjoy it.
Yep. So now you have been the school resource officer here in Little Falls since?
This is, believe it or not, this is year 12.
Year 12.
So the graduating class, I think, of 2001 was my first year. And as how that came about is President Clinton, back in 2000, had a bunch of cops in school grants, and that was bringing community policing into the schools. And the school district and the city applied for that grant, and that was a 3-year grant. And once that 3-year grant expired, then the city thought it was a very important piece, so they continued to have my presence at the school. And as the years progressed, the school now is also assisting in paying for my services up here at the school.
So how do you handle the stigma? Because to have a police officer in school back when I went to school was a negative thing. It was viewed negatively. How have you been able to turn your presence in our schools, all of our schools, into a positive?
Well, it's starting to become a new norm now. Like for you and I, yeah, it is. And you talk to the older generation, and it is out of the ordinary. Mm-hmm. But you start talking to younger kids, because the program's been going on for 15 years now. Yep. And it's starting to be the new norm. But, the stigma now with the school kids, if you think about it, since I've been in the program for 13 years, all the kids in this building, they were kindergartners or not even in school when I started the position. Yep. So they are very comfortable. They know who I am because they've been seeing me from day one at school.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about your day. What does your day, a normal day, if there ever is such a thing, I'm not sure there is in police work or education. Right. What's a normal day look like for Officer
like you
Stumpf?
said, there's always something different every day. Yeah. And that's the part I like about the job. Nothing's guaranteed. You never know what's going to happen, what you're going to get involved in that day. But my normal day, I start at the police department. When I get my squad ready, and I try to get up here by about 20 to 8, and then I monitor the parking lot. I talk to kids in the commons and just get a feel for the day, and then I'll go and read all my police reports to see if any of our kids have been involved in anything. And it's not just criminal, to see if they've had any issues at home, to see if just to see where our kids are at. Because sometimes a kid gets involved in a bad situation at home and may need some assistance, some social services, some services that we can provide here at school through our social workers, through our counselors and stuff. And if I find something like that, I immediately call our social workers or counselors and let them know that, hey, this kid might need some services today. Yeah. So then I walk the beat, and I try to make contact with each teacher every day, whether it's hi, how you doing, or just a nod, or just a presence, just to say, I'm here if you need anything. And I try to get to the middle school every day. I think that's important to get there. Try to hook up with the social worker there, the counselors there, the principals, anything going on, and then walk the beat through the building. I try to get to the elementary schools once or twice a week. Try to get over the continuing education center once a week. So that's part of my my patrol. And I think it's extremely important. I try to spend, 50% of my time patrolling because I think it's important to be out there and see the kids and be visible. And the other thing is responding to calls, just like I would if I was working the street. Radio, I get a radio call. Most of the staff call me directly on my cell phone. They have my number. So I respond to 3, 4, 5 calls a day.
Okay. So, obviously, knowing you the way I know you, the best part of your day is the interaction with the kids.
Right. I enjoy that. I monitor the lunch duty at the high school. I try to get up here every day and do that. And I enjoy, walking through and talking to the kids. Finding out where the fish are biting.
The important things. And that's good to know. That's good to know. So now you're a Little Falls grad, right? Born and raised here?
Correct. I graduated from Little Falls in 1981. Attended St. Cloud State University, got my criminal justice degree there. While at St. Cloud, I needed money for college, so I joined the Guards.
Okay.
Went through the ROTC program there. Helped me out tremendously financially for school, and I also got to do a little traveling there. And then after that, I worked in Hopkins for 9 years, and my kids at the time were like 3 and 5. I'm thinking, do I want to raise my kids down here in the metro? And me and my wife talked about it. The position opened up in Little Falls, so we moved back here.
So now you started as a regular patrol officer within the city of Little Falls.
Right. So I'd been back working patrol for about 4 or 5 years before this school liaison position opened up.
Okay. Now, were you the original school liaison officer?
Right.
So you've been the only one.
Yep.
Well, we can look at that a number of different ways about your successor down the road. But we'll talk about that later on.
All right. I put it this way, I'll have a lot of training in to do.
Exactly.
And you might probably have to hire 2 to replace my one.
Well, yeah, we've talked a lot about that. Yeah. So relationships. Obviously, I think your job, like most jobs in education, is all based on relationships.
Correct. Relationships and trust.
Yep.
And I think by getting out into the public, and I did that a lot when I was working patrol. I would get out of the squad car, walk the beat. Even during the summer now, you'll see me walking the beat downtown. And I think it's important. You build trust that way. If someone has an issue, they know who you are because you've met with them face to face, walking the beat, talking to them. And you're not just portraying a negative contact. I think police officers a lot of times are portrayed negatively because every contact that you've had with them has been negative. Traffic stop or something like that. And and we as police officers have to get out and portray that, yes, we can have a lot of positive contacts with the public.
Well, and it's been nationally, it's been kind of a tough time to be a police officer. So how do you respond to a student, a junior or a senior, who's interested in a career in law enforcement? Because we do, as I've been able to visit with a number of our upperclassmen, a lot of them look towards law enforcement. So what do you tell them as we see the unrest that's happening not only in the state but nationwide? Is law enforcement a good career option for kids now?
Yeah, I think it is. If I didn't like what I was doing, I wouldn't do it. And you can't just look at every job that you get involved in. Yeah, there's some negative aspects to it, but you can't just focus on the negatives. You got to look at all the positive things. I enjoy simple things like someone calls, they lock their keys in the car, and it's 40 below out, and I enjoy helping people, doing stuff like that. And so there's a lot of positive, a lot of the getting out of the car, talking to people, the public contact. Yeah. Those are all the things, positive things that I enjoy.
Well, talk a little bit about what's the career path for a student who might be looking at a career. Where are some of the possibilities for them to attend school, whether a 4-year or a 2-year college?
Well, in Minnesota, we have a 2-year associate's degree requirement in order to be licensed. So you can go to Alexandria for that. I think they have one up in Hibbing also.
Okay.
All the four-year colleges in Minnesota have a criminal justice program. And then after you finished your original degree, then you have to go through a skills portion. And that's a 12-week, kind of like a police academy type.
Okay.
And then after you finish your police academy, then you're eligible to be licensed. You have to take a post test. And once you pass that post test, then you're eligible to be licensed, and then you can go out and look for a job. And then once you get hired by that agency, then they will license you to become a police officer.
Okay, so it's it definitely is a path that's feasible for kids.
Yep.
But does take some diligence as well.
In a lot of the metro departments now, they're requiring a four-year degree.
They are.
Yep.
Okay, so local colleges, does St. Cloud State do the law?
Correct.
The pre-law or what?
Yep. St. Cloud State has a
Yep.
criminal justice degree.
Criminal
I know
justice.
Bemidji
Yep.
does too.
Okay.
And I went to St. Cloud State. I know a lot of the officers went to Bemidji, and they have very nice programs.
Okay. Well, good. Officer Dave Stumpf, it's been wonderful having you here with us. For someone who's been in schools with school resource officers before, no joking here. I can honestly say that Officer Stumpf does create those meaningful relationships with kids that ultimately impacts the safety of our students. It's really fun and gratifying actually to watch Officer Stumpf do his job. I know that he has multiple interactions with families of students, and they likewise are pleased that Dave has taken such an interest in their kids' lives. So Dave, I want to thank you for making time today,
Thank you,
but
Mr.
ultimately,
Jones.
thank you for all you do on behalf of Little Falls Community Schools.
Thank you.
Officer Dave Stumpf. We'll be back with the second half of today's show in just a second. Hello, and back to our second segment of Focus on Education. I'm Little Falls Community Schools Superintendent Stephen Jones, and joining me on the second half of today's Focus on Education is Miss Sheila Funk. Sheila is the program coordinator for the Drug-Free Communities Grant, which Little Falls Community Schools was just fortunate enough to receive. So Sheila, first of all, thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that Drug-Free Communities Grant, the process to get this grant, how competitive it is, and ultimately towards the end of the show here, we'll talk about some of the things that are going to come our way because of that Drug-Free Communities Grant. So first of all, let's talk about the process for the Drug-Free Communities Grant.
Okay. The Drug-Free Communities Grant is a federal grant out of Washington, D.C. So there's applications that come from all across the country, from every state. So it's a highly competitive grant. This year they had close to 500 applicants, and we're only able to award about 190.
Okay.
And it goes through a scoring process, and you need a near perfect score to get funded. I believe most of the scores were in the mid to high 90s out of a score of 100. It's not a simple grant. It's several pages long, quite a long narrative explaining some of the components of your community, some of the evaluation that you've done in the community around some of the substances that you want to focus on. And so we went through that process of analysis of the community before that and identifying what are some of the key substances for youth in this community. So we knew that going into writing the grant, and then gathering some of the data around that, how much usage is there, how available is it, what kind of problems is it causing in the community. And then more importantly for getting awarded for the grant is the community readiness to attack those problems. And so Little Falls has just been a prime community for that, because they have mobilized around so many other issues and been successful at tackling some of those issues, from parents to businesses to the school district to healthcare to the government. Just have really come together and worked with the youth on being successful in tackling so many issues that are facing our culture.
So you're talking about mobilizing other efforts, and one of those efforts that has been really successful has been the Stand Up For You Coalition, which began here in Little Falls about, 3.5 years ago?
2008 it started.
2008
Yep.
here in Little Falls. And so that, again, has been a very successful, I suppose, almost a kickstart to allow us to transition into the Drug-Free Communities Grant. Just give us a little bit about the Stand Up For You committee and where the original funds from that grant came from?
Okay. Back in 2008, it was really some concerned parents that came together and said, we want to do something about alcohol use among the youth and adults in the community. And so it was those parents coming to public health that said, we're concerned and we want to do something. So public health appointed a director, basically, just a few hours a week to mobilize that Stand Up For You, and invitations were gone out widespread to the community, to every sector, from school to business to parents, youth. And so there was several community members that came to the table and kept coming to the table early on without any real funding. And did some great things. Did some great things in those first couple of years without funding around, educating parents and creating a parent group and where people could feel supported and do some things for the youth. And so it was during that time frame when they were looking at funding opportunities, and through a lot of volunteer time, put together some funding applications and secured funding from the state through a planning and implementation grant, which they are currently operating under, focusing on youth alcohol use for the past 3 years, pretty heavily here in the school and in the community, and it's been wildly successful. The students here have been phenomenal, and have been really excited about working together on tackling some of those issues and encouraging their fellow students to make healthy decisions. So this drug-free community grant really piggybacked on a lot of that, and now we're able to focus on prescription drugs and marijuana, which we see as emerging issues, even though alcohol seems to be the drug of choice for youth. The rates have gone drastically down, but the youth that are using, they're primarily using alcohol. But because of our experience with substance use prevention, we've been able to see some indicators showing that both prescription drugs and marijuana are emerging. And so because we have this great collaboration among the community, from youth to all of the adults, this is a great time to jump on it and tackle it and make sure that some of the tragic things that come out of that substance use don't affect our families.
So certainly one of the focuses of any P&I grant or the Drug-Free Communities grant is getting relationships built with the kids. These don't work unless it's kid-centric. So what are a couple of the ways that the Stand Up For You committee, which will morph into the Drug-Free Communities grant, has chosen to build those relationships with kids that you're seeing have impacted usage rates?
Okay. Well, one of the key ways is the student groups that have been emerging and developing in both the middle schools and the high schools through EPIC and Target. And with those groups, been able to do some great things in bringing the Positive Community Norms campaign forward, in the Our Choices, Our Future campaign, about getting the truth out there about the usage rates among youth for substances.
Somebody from the community might recognize that through the billboards. A lot of the billboards that say "Parents, talk to us." That's part of that whole campaign. It is,
and that information came out of surveys that we did among the students and the parents in the community. And so we realized that, students want their parents to talk to them about substance use and their expectations, and parents thought they were talking to them.
Right.
But, so we just want to clarify that and get the correct information out there and really encourage and support parents to talk to youth. And youth have been telling us that that's what they want to hear. And so, and seeing visibly, the youth groups growing through Target and EPIC makes the parents feel supported as well, that, they're doing the right thing in talking to their students. And through the campaign, we're able to arm the parents and students with the accurate information. So when they are talking, it's not about, they're just their perceptions of what they think is going on. They have the real data there and know what's going on.
And what I like is the way that these initiatives connect so well with the Flyer Pride that is going on district-wide. And secondly, with the Drug-Free Communities grant, with you being here in the district now 40 hours a week, the ability for you to get down to the elementary level and start connecting with some elementary kids is really invigorating.
Absolutely, and we try to pair the Our Choices, Our Future campaign name with Flyer Pride because they align so nicely, and now we have a great opportunity to really be in all of the elementary schools as well, and being able to pair that campaign with Flyer Pride and sponsor some activities or whatever we need to be in that community and reach some of those parents early before their students are even in middle school.
When I came here just short of 3 years ago, Stand Up For You, the name Stand Up For You, which will continue to be the name for the Drug Free Communities Grant as well, was really just starting to begin being recognized for what it was. Now, 3 years later, I think a growing majority of our students and adults understand what Stand Up For You is, a lot through the name brand recognition program that you've been running.
Mm-hmm. I think so too, and thanks to those funding opportunities, we are able to get our name out there and align with a lot of the positive things that are going on in the community, which is so important to the whole community feeling supported. Yeah,
one of the best activities I think is at the middle school when the kids turn in their Flyer Pride tickets, and are able to turn them in for goods, and a number of them are exactly what we talked about, Stand Up For You merchandise.
Yes, with the Our Choices, Our Future logo on it, the Flyer Pride logo on it, some of our positive messages about the actual usage among youth. And the fun thing about being part of EPIC is you get to help decide what kind of products go into that cool commissary.
Yep. So now we've talked a little bit about the Drug Free Communities Grant, Sheila, but we haven't really talked about the depth of it, how much it's worth, how long it's going to be. So let's do maybe a quick recap of just how many dollars we're talking about coming into the school community from this grant.
Okay, it's a 5-year grant and $125,000 a year funded by the federal government. And one of the requirements of the grant is that we also match that $125,000 from the community, and that's in-kind dollars. So that's in community volunteers, that's in student volunteers, that's in the school district providing the office space and some of the things so that we can do our work here. There's any number of things that go on in the community and with law enforcement and the businesses that count towards in-kind. So it's not we don't have to come up with $125,000 in cash. It's just because there's been so many good things going on in the community, matching $125,000 is relatively easy.
It is, and the beauty of this is that it again speaks to the collaboration, the partnership that has to happen between the grant itself, but the students and the families that are the target of what we're talking about. And so as we're starting to narrow down our time here on this segment of Focus on Education, what are your key takeaways as you're now completed, I think, your first month, maybe a month and a half, as the program coordinator for the Drug Free Communities Grant?
Oh, some of the few takeaways, and this is something that has impressed me for a long time, is just how much community collaboration there is. And from the very first time we announced that we had the Drug Free Communities Grant, we've been contacted by community members from several sectors saying, we want to get involved because we have seen that Stand Up For You has done some great things in the community, and this is some place where we want to invest our time. So that alone has just been awesome, because I know that this work is going to continue on for years to come with or without funding, but we're definitely going to take advantage of the wealth of experience and motivation that we have right now, and can make a huge difference in the community.
Good. And I have a sneaking suspicion that I'll probably ask you to come back at various times during the 5-year grant cycle to update our folks on the Stand Up For You Coalition as it continues now into the Drug Free Communities Grant and moving things forward. Sheila, thanks so much for making time out of your day to come and visit with us on Focus on Education. Ms. Sheila Funk, Program Coordinator of the Drug Free Communities Grant, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'm Stephen Jones, Superintendent of Little Falls Community Schools, thanking you for watching as we close this segment of Focus on Education.